I've created, where there is stillness of mind, stillness of body, stillness of breath even. I mean, I'm breathing, but so that peace I also have in my life, but I have it more in meditation than in my daily life. So that calm and that peace, you're saying, well, I think you're saying is it's not necessary, and it's just an attachment, and that the only true peace is when one has wholesome thinking.
Is there some particular virtue in that calmness itself? Is it the aim, or is it something that will help further one's aim?
I find that that peace enables me to have an objectivity. It enables me to see more clearly. It enables me to also make assessments, or to make decisions more clearly. It actually does bring more clarity to my life, but I might be deluded about that.
Well, it's quite possible that in terms of conventional considerations, that calmness is beneficial to the way one conducts one's daily life. But where is it leading?
I feel it's not necessarily leading, but it is providing for making clearer, cleaner, more objective choices.
So we are talking about the development of understanding, as we've said before. So this is perhaps, these are different considerations. The calmness that you find in your practice helps you in your daily life, but it may not be something that helps towards the development of understanding, that helps one to see the realities of life. Is life something to be treasured and sought after, or is it something that is going to that is ultimately unsatisfactory in its nature? I mean, that's the sort of that is what the Buddha explained, that none of these momentary realities that we're talking about last for more than a fraction of a moment, and in themselves have no essence that is worth seeking to perpetuate and have as a refuge. So, and when one sees this more clearly, there's less cause for attachment and less cause for aversion. It's attachment to things and to living that keeps us going in the round of rebirths.
We just talk about now, so now, for example, if we would like to be calm, or we'd like to be a kind person, or we'd like not to be attached to anything, or we would like not to have aversion to anything, actually at those moments it is attachment, because it's thinking of oneself, wishing to be calm, wishing not to be disturbed, wishing not to be attached, wishing to have more understanding. So it's different from at moments of genuine kindness, when one's actually concerned for the other's welfare, no thought of how can I be a kind person. The moments of actually being helpful or kind or considering the other's needs, at those moments there is calmness. At moments of genuine generosity, not when one's thinking about will they like it or will I get something in return, but a moment of actually considering what is useful for someone else. The chitta is calm, and at moments of wise considering, like now, if there's considering that actually it is only that which is visible that's seen, that life just exists in this moment, and that this is the world now, at that moment of considering wisely, the chitta is calm at all. But as soon as there's any thought about oneself, or this will help me in my daily life, or this will make it easier because I'll be unruffled, or something like that, then it's back to thinking of oneself. So it's very subtle, and as we mentioned before, actually only understanding can know. But what John was saying, or what we were mentioning before, is when one undertakes any kind of practice, it is motivated by attachment, because it's trying to get something for oneself at that time. For example, if we talk about metta, loving kindness, I'm sure you're familiar with it, at moments of actually just being friendly or helping people around. It's different from if one's sitting quietly trying to have metta by thinking in particular ways. So it always comes back to this moment, and this was why Jan asked what examples are there in daily life which are kusala, actually any moments of kindness or generosity or helpfulness or respect or understanding. At those moments the chitta is calm.
Ajahn mentioned the word will, or this is not by will, I think were the words. And I found that very clarifying. But the question that arises then is, what do we do to better understand that is not me wanting to better understand? How does understanding arise without me exerting some choice or some will to bring myself to a place like this where understanding, better understanding might occur?
Do you know conditions for seeing to arise?
I don't know how to answer. I'm not sure.
This will bring about the understanding that all depends on conditions. Because even seeing right now is conditioned by many conditions. It's unknown. So even the thinking of coming to listen is conditioned, unknown, like seeing now. Nobody knows about the conditions, much more than only I sense or I base, which condition a moment of seeing.
So sometimes one finds oneself in a situation without any choice or obvious reason for being there, and it's happened many times to me, and then something apparently deep and wonderful happens.
No one can make anything arise at all.
Yeah,
It must be each moment by conditions.
right.
If one thinks of a situation like coming here, it's very difficult to understand, because one thinks, oh well, I came here because I decided to come and listen to the discussion, so conventionally of course that's all correct. But if we begin to consider the realities, actually there's no reality I came here. There are moments of seeing, moments of hearing, moments of thinking, and each of those moments arises by particular conditions. So seeing now only arises if there is a visible object to be seen, impinging on the eye sense, and it only arises if karma in the past conditioned that particular seeing. Thinking about coming here, that kind of thinking, is conditioned by previous tendencies or habits to think in that way, like yesterday there was thinking about different realities. So that thinking yesterday was a condition for thinking today about the value of hearing about different realities. And the thinking yesterday was conditioned by thinking before that. So it's accumulated, that kind of thinking, just like the attachment or the pleasant feeling when looking at particular objects and thinking about lilies, that thinking of attachment about lilies is accumulated, like we mentioned, by memory and other habits. So each reality, each Dhamma arises because of particular many conditions and not by anyone's will. But if you think of a long story about, oh, why did I sleep last night, or why did I go there, or how did I find myself having lunch at this restaurant, it's impossible to understand realities as anatta, not self.
So my apparent understanding of, for example, I came here because is very crude. It cannot possibly factor in everything that arose in all the moments before I am actually here.
But we do know, we can see that without the sort of association or opportunities or occasions such as these, there would not be the possibility of developing understanding. So we can talk about that as a condition, but not as a condition that can be created or made to happen. Understand that these conditions are conditions that happen when conditions are right for them to happen. As soon as there's the idea of I will
Create the conditions to
create
so
the
that
condition by doing more of this, then that's not the correct understanding
Is that
of
an
what we mean
obstacle?
by conditions.
Is that an obstacle for something to
Can
happen?
be, yes, because if we, even coming along to a discussion such as this, if one thinks it's going to be a condition for more understanding at that moment, and if I listen intently enough, then some pearls of wisdom are going to make a lot of sense, and so on and so forth. So yes, there can be attending a discussion with wrong view. Yeah. And so there has to be the hearing of the reality of the way things are in order to begin the development of that understanding. It would never be worked out